Hello, 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 and welcome back to Full Time, presented by Amazon Business. This week, I am joined by Ajax and U.S. Women's National Team midfielder Lily Yohannes. We're going to discuss club and country ball. A lot has happened since the first time I met her, just about a year ago when I traveled to Amsterdam to profile her for a story that you can read on The Athletic. But to do that, and to unpack the conversation that I have with her, I am joined by my co-host, Meg Linehan. Meg, how's it going?
Good. It's good. Also, before we even get into this, we should also mention that the news is finally out that you are a full-time athletic women's soccer writer. So first, we got to talk about that.
Yes, honestly, so much has been happening. I have been onboarding my life away. And yes, would have forgotten to mention it genuinely. So thank you. Yes, I'm full-time now. Full-time
and
squared.
All the Slack channels.
All of the Slacks.
All the Slack channels, yeah. Welcome
so
to
many
that
emoji
madness.
reactions. This feels in a lot of ways like a long time coming. I know I've been freelancing for The Athletic for a minute, beginning with the World Cup, which feels both like it was just yesterday and forever ago because so much has happened since. But I'm thrilled. I am really hitting the ground running. You and I will both be at the U.S. Women's National Team versus Brazil game in LA at SoFi at the end of the week, which is going to come in the blink of an eye. But yes, new announcement, new job title, new work to do. I'm very excited.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I also finally get to shift into the new role. So that is definitely exciting, but I think it's going to be really fun. Obviously a lot of new stories. The podcast isn't going anywhere. Yeah. And also Tamerra, I also want to throw you a curveball on the start of this podcast because people are probably going to be aware by the time this podcast drops that Cory Booker has just set a record for the longest speech at the Senate. And there was Emily Olsen threw into one of our group chats the question of if you had to talk for 24 hours straight, what would you talk about? And so this is a great question. I, of course, answered severance because it has eaten my brain still. So I was listen, that's what is happening anyway. My friend Jenna Tonelli, who also covers women's soccer, and I literally assigned what character would be a fan of what NWSL team, just on our own this morning in our text messages. So I'm ready to go. But Tamerra, if 24 hours, one topic.
Oh, you know what? I have a lot of strong opinions about potlucks.
That is not, if you had given me a million options, potlucks would not have been
you threw me a curveball, so I'm just going to return the curveball, okay? I have a philosophical approach to the way I think about potlucks and what people bring and how they approach it, whether it's store-bought, homemade. And I think if given the right, we'll call it fuel. You can interpret that as you will. But I think I could do it. I really think I could do it. Because it's food, it's immense, it's infinite.
You can go into the detour, it's like when you are looking at a recipe online and you get the person's entire life story before you get to the recipe. That is the vibe.
Exactly. I could do the verbal version of that. Yeah. Yeah. So potlucks. Potlucks would be my filibuster.
Okay. I like it.
I don't even know how to segue out of that, but here we go. You mentioned that the podcast is not going anywhere, and that is true. Not only that, but it is expanding. We are expanding our full-time verse with shows not only on Wednesdays with me and Meg, but on Mondays and Fridays with new host Jillian Sakovitz. If you have not listened to either Full-Time Review or Full-Time Focus, make sure that you are subscribed. On Mondays, Jillian is going to be reviewing everything that happened in women's soccer from the past weekend. Think about the things that have your group chats riled up or silenced, which is sort of what happened to mine when Marta had that crazy panenka this past weekend. But then on Friday, she's going to be looking ahead to the weekends, the things that you're going to be wanting to drop into the group chats to make sure all your friends are covered. So Full-Time Focus, Full-Time Review, and of course, the Wednesday Full-Time with Meg and I, where we will be going a lot deeper into topics with interviews like we have this week with Lily. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts. And if you can't get enough, add a newsletter to the menu. Why not? It's free. Make sure that you sign up for that. We're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, my conversation with Lily Yohannes. All right. I am pleased to be joined by Ajax and U.S. Women's National Team midfielder Lily Yohannes. Lily, so much to catch up on. So much has happened since the last time we spoke, but let's start with the basics. How are you? Thanks for joining the show.
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Not feeling any jet lag the way I imagine you are. So thanks for being a trooper. So excited to catch up with you because, like I said, so much has happened since the last time I saw you. For those of you listeners who are not aware, last year, right around this time, actually, I traveled to Amsterdam and wrote a profile about Lily and her journey through Ajax and onto eventually the U.S. Women's National Team, which you can read at The Athletic. And crazy enough, for everything that's happened, this is actually our first time like having a proper conversation since then, which is crazy. But catch me up a little bit because so much has happened since then. How have things changed for you since the last time we spoke?
Yes, firstly, thank you for having me on. A lot has happened. A lot of great things that I think a lot of great experiences. And, obviously, I've committed to playing for the U.S., which is, I think, sort of the biggest moment since the last time we've spoken. Just being in with the national team, just growing my game at Ajax and in this environment with the national team. So, lots of fun, lots of great moments for sure.
Absolutely. And this itself probably feels like forever ago, but can you rewind and walk us back a little bit through your first cap, which was almost a year ago? Also crazy to think about, but it was a major moment because you also scored your first goal.
Yeah, for sure. I think that was such a special moment. A great honor to make my first cap. And I came on in the game and I was just so excited. I think I was looking forward to that moment and coming onto the field and obviously getting my first goal was super amazing. So, just a dream debut, I would say, and a moment I will never forget. And, just really amazing.
So many unforgettable moments throughout your career already, which is crazy to think about considering you are 17 years old. And not to age myself, but I'm literally twice your age as we speak. And for someone like me who, has been 17 before, it's easy to sort of imagine how much more life I have to live. But I'm wondering if you can sort of describe for us this moment that you're in right now. I mean, football has been your life for longer in your life than it has not been a part of your life, right? You've made some huge decisions about your career. Is there a sense of like you becoming aware of the magnitude of what you can accomplish over like the greater span of your career, even knowing that you're at the beginning of the journey still, even with everything that you've done from Ajax, Champions League to women's national team? I mean, you're in camp right now getting ready to play another pair of games. How are you sort of managing the trajectory of your career and also the pacing of it, knowing how young you still are?
I think just trying to stay as present as I can. I know, I've had like really great experiences and I've been grateful to have experienced so many, great moments in such a, short career so far. I think just having a great support system around me with my family, coaches, teammates, and just them all just helping me to, just stay grounded, stay on track. And obviously I have goals for myself and dreams that I want to aspire to achieve. So just working towards those every day.
Makes sense. Goals was actually on the list of questions that I had for you. And I know that sometimes people can be sensitive, not wanting to put the specifics of their goals out there. But are there any that you can share with us, even if they're short-term goals, for Ajax, for the U.S. Women's National Team? What's sort of on your vision board, maybe for the year, the next few years, in terms of your development, in terms of the next set of accomplishments that you want to reach for?
I would say just in the short term, I think, like I said, staying present and continuing to work and grow with club and at the international level with the national team. With the national team, just trying to take every experience that I can and learning and growing in this environment. And yeah, I think it's always an honor to come into camp, and I just want to perform and help this team as best I can, and do the same at club. Just making an impact, and hopefully we can end the season on a high note.
Yeah, if you're not following Ajax right now, things are getting really, really tight in the league. Yeah. I know that you scored a brace recently this weekend. Congratulations on that. But can you, for those of us who sometimes have trouble accessing Dutch women's football from the U.S., for example, can you paint a picture of what is happening at the top of the table right now with Ajax and your ambitions for how you'd like to finish the season?
Yeah, so we're sort of in a title race, the top three, with Ajax, PSV, and Twente. I think it's about the PSV and Twente are tied at first, and we're 1 point behind. And I believe there's 3-4 games left. So, it's a tight race. I think as a team, we're just trying to focus on our own results, and we don't have control of what other teams do, but just trying to keep a high level and performing and getting good results, so that hopefully ends up in our favor.
Remains to be seen. And if you haven't been following, this is your chance to lock in, because it seems like there's going to be only drama from here on out for the next 3 games. But let's stick with Ajax a little bit more, Lily, because I know when we first met, this club has been super instrumental in your development as a player. How are things going there? Are you happy? I know there's been some movement and changes from personnel around coaches, and I'm sure your teammates have changed a lot, people going to other teams. But are you still feeling that this club is pouring into you the way that you first felt when you signed with them?
Yeah, like you said, I think Ajax has been really instrumental in my development, and has helped me to be in the place I am today. Coming through their academy and having their trust and belief to move to the first team and have the opportunities at such a young age has really helped me to develop and gain experience, obviously at Champions League level and as well as in the league. And I think Ajax is a really great environment that helps me to continue to grow. And obviously there's been changes with players and coaching and whatnot, but I think I'm just continuing to push myself and just wanting to help the team as much as I can so that we can do great things together.
And for people who maybe have not traveled to Amsterdam, and for people who may not be familiar with sort of the culture of Dutch football, how would you describe that to them? Especially now that you've been traveling to the U.S. a lot more for national team camps. The conversation in the U.S. soccer landscape has really increased when it comes to discussions about Europe, European club football. And so what would you sort of say to someone who is dipping a toe in those waters? Maybe they watch a few WSL games here and there, but they don't really know what the culture of European football offers, let alone Ajax and Dutch football specifically. So how would you sort of describe that club culture and how it's benefited you as a player?
Yeah, I think within Europe, there's so many diverse teams and styles of play within different leagues. I can speak on at Ajax. I think what's helped me a lot is the attention to the technical and tactical aspect of the game. Ajax is a very possession-oriented team, playing attacking football, and just having a sort of DNA that's helped me to develop and grow qualities in my game. I think within Europe as a whole, it's super diverse, which is amazing, having Champions League and having all those diverse teams and clubs come together to compete against each other. And I think that's something that's really cool within the game. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, I have a question, but I need to caveat. The answer cannot include a Champions League memory, but I'm curious if you can share one of your most memorable experiences with Ajax. I'm saying you can't say Champions League because that's a bit too easy a question, right? But beyond Champions League.
Okay.
Tell me about a core memory that you've had with Ajax so far.
Core memory, I would say winning the Baker last year. That's like the cup. We won the cup, and I think that's really a core memory. It's my first trophy with the club in the first team, at least. And I think that was really special to cap off such a memorable season last season and with a trophy. So that was a really great memory for sure.
Trophies always bond. I should have said that you couldn't say winning a trophy either.
Couldn't say that either.
Because it does sound like as a team, you guys have a lot of fun together. I mean, just from your social media, you guys are always hanging out off the field. But I can imagine how much a trophy bonds a team and gives you something to work toward this season, right? Yeah,
for sure. I think that's what the game's about, I guess. You want to win as much trophies as you can and help the club. Just be a part of that history for the club. I think, my team is super great. We have such great personalities, and we have lots of fun on and off the pitch. So, that's great.
Love to hear that. And last question about Ajax and playing in Europe. As I mentioned, in the U.S., you look at players like Naomi Girma, who is now at Chelsea. There has just increasingly been a curiosity and a pursuit of players who have grown their careers in the U.S., taking their talents across the Atlantic, whether that's to the UK, whether that's to Spain, France, the Netherlands. You are someone who made that decision a long time ago when you were a lot younger. And when I think about your path, at the risk of, saying, oh, Lily was playing in Europe before it was cool, it's not that simple, of course. But I am curious, from the perspective of someone who did make that move when you were, single-digit age, what is it like now to see, players from the NWSL going and playing in the WSL or playing in France, playing in Portugal, knowing that this is an experience that has really defined your career? It's not been a more recent chapter. Is there a sense of like, oh, you're about to see what I've been experiencing? Are people coming to you for advice? What's that like?
Yeah, I think it's just super cool to have so many great leagues around the world, whether that's in the U.S. or in Europe. Just having those options as a player to make decisions whether to go abroad and playing in Europe or playing in the NWSL. I think just having those options, and it's just great to see the growth of the game. I think having so many diverse teams and players all across the globe is super cool. And for me, I think since I've been in the Netherlands since I was 10, and that's sort of just normal for me. I think just playing in the academy system with the boys and then at Ajax has just helped me to develop. And I would just say everybody's path is different. It's just per your own personal choices, and I think it's just, like I said, great to have so many great leagues all over the globe.
That makes sense, and I totally agree. There are really no two identical paths in this game for all of the people who've been playing it for as long as they've been playing it. But I can also see how the more options available, the number of possible paths will only multiply and make each individual path that much more unique, right?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, let's pivot to U.S. women's national team, since you are in national team camp right now. I would love to know what your experience has been like playing with Kat Macario, because I feel, and it's not just about playing similar positions, but it feels like there is a special kind of bond forming there. I mean, I see photos of you guys. You always look like you're having the time of your lives whenever you're photographed for the national team. But what can you share about that relationship? Is there a sense of, mentorship, or her taking you under her wing a little bit? Are you learning from her and vice versa?
Yeah, for sure. I think, Kat's super cool. I think, we have a great bond on and off the pitch. Like you said, I think she sort of took me under her wing when I first came into camp. And last camp was sort of our first time playing together. So I know that's something we were both looking forward to. And Kat's just such an amazing player with so much quality. So I've really enjoyed playing with her. And just off the field, just having a good time. So.
Awesome. You got to establish those relationships off the field too in order to sort of express them on the field, I imagine, right?
For sure. Yeah. I think growing bonds off the field just helps to grow connection and chemistry on the pitch. So.
Absolutely. And this is a really interesting year for the U.S. women's national team. I mean, last year when you got your first invitation to camp, your first cap, it was very much, building toward the Olympics. Now that is done, and now that we are still, 2+ years out from the World Cup in 2027, this feels very much like a year to build, a year to establish relationships off the pitch, as you mentioned, certainly relationships on the pitch, finding out which partnerships are, have potential to them. How are you sort of approaching this year where it might be too soon to be thinking as clearly as, I need to get on this roster? Of course, everyone wants to do that. But how are you sort of defining this year of building towards something big, even though you're still pretty far away from the next major international tournament with the U.S.?
Yeah, I think, like you said, it's just, it's a build. It's a sort of a build towards, just for me personally, I think I just want to continue to grow and develop in this environment. I just want to keep working and taking every opportunity that I get, taking every experience with me and growing from it. And like you said, just wanting to help the team as best as I can. It's an honor to be able to be in this environment, and I just want to be a part of the success of this team.
And there's a high bar for success. I mean, I don't know that there is a national team with a higher bar for success. And I imagine that the way that trickles down is, a lot of pressure, a lot of competition for playtime, a lot of competition to improve as fast as you can, to earn those opportunities. Emma Hayes has been very clear about that from the moment she became the head coach of this team. What's it been like playing for her, and especially in this stage where she has communicated in various interviews that there's a specific vision that she has for how things need to be done, and now that you and the team have time to build toward that, she's going to be very specific and very demanding about what she wants. What's that experience been like for you so far? Is it offering a certain challenge that you can kind of embrace? I imagine so, but she seems like she's a tough person to please sometimes when it comes to things like this.
I think playing under Emma has been really great. I think I've already grown and learned so much from her in I think such like a year or so. I think you can just really feel how much she is invested in every player's development in this environment, and I think she just pushes the standard and has expectations of what she wants from us and how she wants us to play. And I think just trying to be intentional of every detail. I think that just helps all of us to keep growing as a team as well as individuals. So like I said, I think I've just learned a lot, and I'm continuing to learn every opportunity I get. And it's been really great playing under her for sure.
That's good to hear. It's only gonna get more challenging, but in the way that helps you grow. And you've mentioned a few times throughout this interview that is really one of your goals. And I have to say, from the moment we first met around this time last year, one of the things that has most intrigued and a lot of times impressed me about you, Lily, is your ability to sort of absorb all of the pressure, all of the attention that has only increased. I mean, I have been tracking your Instagram follower count, and so I know that there has been serious growth there. But when you're on the pitch, you would never know because you are often so composed. And when I think about, going back to players like Mal Swanson, Lindsay Heaps, players who were identified at similar ages as you were and had a lot of pressure heaped on them, a lot of expectation. Is that something that you sort of keep in the back of your mind when it comes to the importance of staying present? I feel like in sports in general, certainly in women's soccer, there is this fascination with teenage phenomenons, you know? And I'm sure you feel that. But can you sort of talk about how you manage to stay present? It almost seems like it has to be a job for you because there is so much momentum that can just sweep you up into the spotlight. But that doesn't always end so well with younger players. So how do you sort of manage and balance that?
Yeah, I think like you said, just trying your best to stay present. I've gotten some advice of don't get too high on the highs and too low on the lows, and just trying to stay steady through it all. For me, I have so many more goals that I want to achieve, and obviously I celebrate the great achievements, but then also just know that there's more that you want and more goals that you want to accomplish. So just trying your best to stay present. Like I said before, I think having support system around you with, family, teammates, coaches, and just trying to continue growing. I think there's so many great moments, but then at the end of the day, you just want to continue growing and continue achieving more and more. So, that's what I would say. Just staying present and wanting to continue great achievements.
Presence is the real goal at the end of the day. All right, Lily, to close this out, I have a few rapid fire questions. These are things that we discussed the very first time I interviewed you, but like I said, a lot changes in a year, so I'm curious how your tastes have changed. I think Lily has really impeccable taste, as you may learn in this rapid fire.
Okay.
So, the first one, I remember you telling me that in your downtime, whenever you have it, you enjoy shopping. So the first question is, what is your favorite, newest addition to your wardrobe? Whether it's an article of clothing, an accessory, a shoe, a handbag.
I would say some like this Adidas, it's like cheetah print jersey.
Ooh.
I don't know how to explain it really, but I like that piece. I just got just went some Adidas shopping, so that was a nice piece. Yeah.
Love it. I mean, you had me at animal print. I love an animal print. And mixing it with a jersey, love that. Gonna have to look that up later. All right, next one. You have very eclectic music tastes that I think reflect your sort of cosmopolitan background. So the next question is, what is the last new artist that you've added to your pregame playlist, if you can remember? Even if it's not the last one, maybe your last favorite one.
That's a tough one. I don't know exactly what the artist was, but it's a song called Mutt, I think. Mutt. I don't know the artist,
I'm a mutt. Okay.
That's the one.
Oh my God, I can't believe I just sang that. But I know what song you're talking about. Yeah, everyone's playing that song right now. Leon something. We'll put it in the show notes. It's a great tune if you haven't heard it.
Yeah, I think Leon something,
Yeah, I know the one. Good choice, good choice. All right, next question. If I am coming back to visit Amsterdam, or if anyone is visiting Amsterdam for the first time, what is a restaurant that they must eat at?
Ooh, tough one. Oh, the thing is, I'm not good with names of restaurants.
That's okay. Maybe describe a dish that you would want someone to try on their first visit to Amsterdam.
Okay. I'm gonna I'll say some traditional Dutch things, okay?
Sounds great,
so, the desserts sort of foods are what I prefer from the rest of the Dutch cuisine.
Okay.
But stroopwafels.
Yes.
It's you know that? Okay. Stroopwafels. What else? Maybe the traditional Dutch pancake. It's a very thin.
Those are both great.
What else? Yeah, I think those oliebollen, maybe.
Oh, what's that one? I'm not familiar with that one.
It's like a ball with like powdered sugar. Yeah.
Okay, like donut hole-ish?
Sorta. Yeah, I would say sorta.
Okay, that's another thing I'm going to look up.
Okay.
Sounds great. And people always bring stroopwafels when they're visiting the Netherlands. So that's a classic for sure. All right. Last rapid fire question, because we were talking about jet lag. I know that you've been racking up your miles with these trips to the U.S. for national team camp. What is one essential for when you travel, whether it's a face mask, whether it's something to help you get over the jet lag? What is something that absolutely must go into your carry-on bag when you make these long trips?
Okay. Must go into my bag. I'm trying to like look around. I don't know, maybe like my toiletries, all of my toiletries, like my hair products.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Got
hair
to
products,
have my hair products.
Absolutely. Because the thing about hair products, if you happen to lose them, like if your bags get lost, you don't know that you'll be able to easily replace them at your local CVS.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, I think that.
Love it. Essential indeed. Lily, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck this weekend with the matches against Brazil, and I hope we can catch up again sometime.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
All right, I'm back with Meg. And I have to say, Meg, one of the things as a writer that has long fascinated me about Lily, not just who she is as a person, but all of the things that we can discuss as a result of how she's built her career. Things that are becoming increasingly pertinent conversations now in women's soccer when it comes to taking your career to Europe, something that she did when she was 10 years old. Where and how can we sort of like put her in the context of this larger conversation that comes up at least once a year around the idea of like a teenage phenomenon and how they can sort of navigate their career so early in life?
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting because you think about even the coverage around Mac Witham, right? Playing in Gotham at age 14. So I do think that the age keeps getting lower and lower, right? Like, I mean, I remember when Olivia Moultrie had to sue the NWSL to play in the NWSL. Yep. And now that barrier has been broken, it's been changing very rapidly here in the US. But I think it's very different to say, okay, you know, the whole family is going to move to Europe and the kid will play in an academy system and graduate to the senior team and play in Champions League by the time she's 16, right? That's a very different vibe than I think what is happening here. And so it is really interesting because I think we go back to Lindsay Heaps, then Haran going to PSG, right, for going college and skipping right to France and people kind of being very surprised by that as a decision. But even that, to your point in the interview, is a very different feel than what happened with Lily, where, like, yes, she played, but then really her development has been European-based and not like this hot pocket in Colorado, right? So it is really interesting because I think this conversation is always like at a surface level. I mean, I even think about, you know, when we write stories about these young phenomenon kids, like that to me it's such an easy target, right? Of just, they're always going to do really well. There's just something easily understandable around like, oh, young player does really well. Next big thing, right? Like this is the player to watch. It's something that's just like, you can instantly get it if you see it on the homepage of the New York Times. And that's just like the surface though of moving to the Netherlands at age 10 and coming up through academy system and playing against boys and going to Ajax, the senior team, playing in Champions League, making the decision to play for the US. Like those are two very different kind of stories. So there is a sense of like, you know, Lily Yohannes as the person versus the player versus the story versus what we see of her, right? And I think maybe, Tamerra, we can turn it to what we have heard from head coach Emma Hayes around Lily Yohannes, which, like, this protective bubble is being built around her. And it comes, like, I think it is about her development, and it's not about the sense of, like, the weight of pressure of the next big thing. Because we've seen that kind of eat players up in the moment. Like you think about Mal Swanson, Mal Pugh then coming into this team and the way that her career kind of went off the rails for a little bit and then she had to work her way back in. Kat Macario, same kind of boat, right? Yep. Like there was such a battle of like, who's she going to pick, US or Brazil? And so that bubble, I think, is important for a lot of reasons. And like, yes, Emma Hayes is interested in the development point of view, but I think that's got a couple angles to it that are really important. I don't know if you agree with that.
Absolutely. And to be fair, the things that Emma Hayes has said about Lily and how intentional she's been about really slowing down the pace. If you compare it to the momentum that, like I mentioned to Lily, she could easily get swept up in for a player with her level of talent, her level of maturity, and her youth. But I do think that Emma seems to be standing on business when it comes to that intentionality, when it comes to development, because we look at what she's doing with the U23s right now, and that same ethos is 100% being applied to that level as well. And I really do think that there's something kind of brilliant about that because it benefits you in the now. It gives players who are, eligible to play for U23s, but maybe have in the past been called up to the senior team, someone maybe like Giselle Thompson, the sense that they are still being invested in, but specifically invested in a way that is not rushing them. Because I think that is one of the most grave disservices you could do to a player that young is thrust them into a position that they might not be ready for, whether it's for technical reasons, emotional, psychological reasons, a combination of those three. It's really hard to come back from that, as you mentioned. And we've seen that, unfortunately, with players, across the history of women's soccer. And so I do think that Emma is serious about this. She is not rushed. She has the benefit of a year like this to really implement these long-term plans. And so it's both, I think, about Lily specifically and about young players in general who are working their way through the U.S. soccer system.
Yeah. I mean, I do almost think about someone like Linda Caicedo, right? Who is playing in a Youth World Cup and a Senior World Cup, right? Like,
yeah.
How do you protect these players from the sense of like, yes, they are super talented at this super young age. And if you let them, they would go, like every day, right? Like, how do you kind of build them into the senior national team, into a major tournament? And so I think the U.S. does have that kind of privilege where they can build the bubble and maybe some other countries cannot do that, right? Like maybe that is kind of the U.S. privilege on this front, but it is, I think, really interesting to know because I just feel like every time that Lily Yohannes has played, right, like I was at her debut game scoring that goal, right, like there is such hype around her and that is completely valid, but then putting it in that greater context of like this is a long-term project. There is no need to rush. There's no universe that she has to be playing and starting in every single game right now. That's not the vibe. So I think that is kind of a comforting idea to be like embracing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, she mentioned this word presence many times throughout our conversation. And as someone who not only was able to have the conversation that I just had with her, but was able to sit in the same room with her and spend time with her family, I really can speak to the impact of that. The bonds that she has with her family, they're all extremely close. And when I think about what it means to have made the decision that they made to relocate, back before the cameras were turned on her, before there was even a spotlight, I do think that there is something about that is like specifically grounding in a way that would have been different if, her name was on everybody's lips back then when she was young and everyone was tracking her every move. I think when you make big decisions like that quietly, it's going to be a little bit harder to shake you even once the attention starts to come. And I really have seen sort of like the effects of that when she speaks. She's always mentioning her family, her guidance, and how that keeps her grounded, which is great. Like, I love that for her because this is a tough life. This is one of the hardest teams in the world to play for, whether you're getting playtime or not, just being in the pool. You know, I always think about what Lynn Biondolo now says about everyone being a bunch of psychos, you know, like that's real and all the more important to feel grounded, whether that's by your family, by your community. And just from what I've learned over the last year plus about Lily, she definitely has that too. So I think it's definitely a balance of those two things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see Lily Yohannes playing against Brazil, potentially, in one of these two games. I think that's going to be a very, very interesting. I mean, I'm really hoping we see a Lily Yohannes, Kat Macario combo in that midfield against Brazil. I'm ready to physically see that with my... It's so great. Like, I'm immediately kind of being a hypocrite about, like,
let
her develop slowly, but also I would like to see her... I want to see what happens. I'm just curious.
I mean, she made this trip all this way. It seems like a fair trade-off for a few minutes or more. No, I totally agree. This is going to be a really important stylistic challenge for her, I think, different from previous international fixtures against different teams. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. We'll have the popcorn popped. The seat will be warmed for me to be completely locked in. All right, that is it for our show. But did you know that The Athletic has partnered with Yahoo Sports to provide free best-in-class coverage of women's sports? If not, and even if you do, make sure that you check out the latest Women's Sports Hub at sports.yahoo.com/women-sports. And if you had trouble following that, don't worry, we will put the link in our show notes. All right, that is the latest Full Time. My name is Tamerra Griffin. I appreciate you, as always, for listening.
I am Meg Linehan. You can find me on Instagram and Blue Sky. I am not posting about severance just to save everybody's sanity, but, you know, again, I'm ready to filibuster. Let's go. You can follow our show at TA Fulltime on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok.
Potlucks are not as timely as severance right now, so I won't be hurt.
But now I feel like we gotta have an athletic potluck. I want to see this in action.
Yes. The next time we're all in the same room. So yes, it's relevant. Potlucks are always relevant. Thank you, Meg. You're right. Full Time is not possible without our podcast producer, Theo Lloyd Hughes, our video producer, Leah Griffin, and our executive producer, Emily Olson. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you on Friday.